What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my NFL DFS picks for Week 11 of the NFL. Really looking forward to get into it here. Lots of stuff we got to talk about. As always, I'm going to be getting into my favorite 3 or 4 plays from each position. Not going to go into every single play, but just the plays I'm going to probably be highest on. And have been on a roll as of late, so hopefully keep it going here into Week 11. With that said, we're going to get started. Before we get started, though, if you can leave a like on the video, it helps out a ton. Subscribe if you have not yet. Again, helps out a ton. But yeah, so we're going to start with the quarterbacks here. And yeah, the quarterback situation is very weird this week, especially with the Taysom Hill news coming out. Hill coming in at 4,800. I'm going to just lock him in cash. I'll tell you that right now. But I do think you can get different for sure. I do think it'll be really chalky. And somebody I'm looking at is Matt Ryan, 6,300 going against the Saints in a 50.5 point game total, where the Falcons are 5-point underdogs. And the Falcons should be coming from behind, leading to more passing attempts. And what I like about Ryan is he throws the ball a ton. He is averaging 39 passing attempts per week. I remember last year was like close to like 45, 50 around there. He threw it a ton. So a little bit less this year, but still throwing it a lot. Solid stackable options with Calvin Ridley, who is back, Julio Jones, who's been on a roll, and just a touchdown upside as well in what should be a high-scoring game here. So Matt Ryan, I think he has a lot of tournament upside. I think if you do want to get off that Taysom Hill chalk, he's not a bad option there. All right, and yeah, like I said, quarterback is really weird. Like all the top options, I really don't want anything to do with. I think Deshaun Watson's interesting. Going down a little bit, Cam Newton versus Houston in a 48-point game total, where the Patriots are 2-point favorites. And Newton's averaging 20.1 DraftKings points this year. And I love the matchup here against the Houston defense. Very good matchup. Decent stacking options with Myers and Bird, and we'll talk about Myers a little bit. But more of a cash play for me. But I do think he has some tournament upside as well. Has some decent rushing yard and rushing touchdown upside. 7 rushing touchdowns, which is nice to see there. So, yeah, I think Newton's very interesting at 6,200. I really like the matchup. We get that rushing yard upside. But yeah, it's really hard to pay that extra. A little bit over 1,000 for Newton when you can go down and get Hill, who we'll talk about right now. So going down, and I couldn't believe this. I really couldn't believe this. So they named Taysom Hill the starter over Jameis Winston. It looked like Jameis Winston was going to come in very heavily owned, and now it's going to be Taysom Hill. And I think Taysom Hill is probably, I don't want to say a must-own in cash, but he's going to be extremely high-owned. He's extremely cheap. It allows you to get a lot of things, so I'm 100% doing it. If you want to get different, I wouldn't recommend doing it in cash, but for tournaments, sure, get a little bit different. He's going to be really chalky. But yeah, Taysom Hill, 4,800, very cheap here versus Atlanta in a 50.5 point game total, which is, I believe, one of the highest on the slate. And the Saints are 5-point favorites. Yeah, I'm just plugging him to cash here. I think it's pretty simple play. 4,800 is really cheap. Drew Brees is out. Giving Hill a big opportunity here against a really bad Atlanta passing defense. So the matchup's good as well. You get decent stackable options if you'd like to stack him with Alvin Kamara. I think you can stack him with him. Michael Thomas, I guess, is fine. And yeah, just some decent upside and a pretty solid offense. I think there's some touchdown upside as well. And he's just really cheap. You really don't need much, especially in cash games. So cash games, yep, 100%. Tournaments, if you want to get a little bit different, sure, but it's really hard to get away from that 4,800 of Taysom Hill. Getting into the running backs, and there's some decent value options that I'll touch on, but I really want to pay up at running back this week. And we'll start with Alvin Kamara, 9,200 versus Atlanta in a 50.5 point game total, where the Saints are 5-point favorites, and he is averaging 27.7 DraftKings points per week. And I really do like Kamara in cash here. So Drew Brees is out, like I mentioned. So I do think they'll lean on Kamara a little bit more here. And as always, he has a really fantastic floor and a great ceiling as well. And yeah, I love the matchup here against his Atlanta defense. And he should be good for around 20 touches and also has some touchdown upside in what should be a pretty high-scoring game here with a 50.5 point game total. So Alvin Kamara, probably going to have him in cash. And with that said, I'm probably going to do the Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook in the same lineup in cash, and I think it's going to be really interesting getting the 2 best running back plays in one lineup. And it's definitely possible. I've done it pretty easily going down and get Taysom Hill at quarterback. I do think you can fit these 2 in there, and I like it this week. I don't know if many people are going to do that, but I do think you're getting a nice floor and a nice ceiling with the 2 combined here. And Dalvin Cook, 9,000 versus Dallas. 40.5 point game total, which is one of the highest on the slate, where the Vikings are 7-point favorites. and Cook is averaging 28.7 DraftKings points per week. And Cook has been on an absolute tear as of late, scoring 100 total DraftKings points in the last 3 games combined. 34 touches last week, and he has that 30 touch upside, this week as well. Pretty much any week he's going to get around 30 touches, which is pretty awesome there. A high touchdown upside, 13 touchdowns on the year. And they should be ahead most of the game, in theory, leading to more carries for Cook as well. I really like the matchup against Dallas. I'm assuming they're going to get ahead out front and just pound the ball with Cook most of the game there. So, yeah, 9,000. I love him in cash. I love him in tournaments as well. And like I said, Kamara and Cook in cash, I really do like that. So, with that said, we got to get some value since we are going up and getting Kamara and Cook. And I think Mike Davis is interesting. I'm not really going to touch on him. Going down, and there's actually some really decent value options down here. I think Balaj is really interesting at 5,600. But I do like Giovanni Bernard, 5,500, going against Washington and a 47-point game total where the Bengals are 1.5-point underdogs. And he scored 20.6 and 22.8 in the first 2 games that Mixon was out. And he scored 8 points last week. But we got to remember he went against the tough Pittsburgh defense. So I'm not looking into that all that much. A really easier matchup here against Washington. Pass catching upside, 12 receptions in the last 3 games. I think he's way too cheap here, going right into that Joe Mixon role. Should see a lot of volume. The matchup's not bad. The price isn't bad. I like Bernard quite a bit. And then the last person I'll touch on for running back, Duke Johnson, 5,400 versus New England and a 48-point game total where the Texans are 2-point underdogs. So David Johnson was placed on injured reserve, I believe, for a couple weeks. So Duke is going to be filling right into that David Johnson role. And he did disappoint last week, only scoring 5.4 DraftKings points, which is definitely going to lower the ownership of Duke Johnson here. And he had 14 rushing attempts last week, 0 receptions, which was concerning because he's had a reception in any other game besides last week. But there were some weather concerns last week in Cleveland, really bad weather in Cleveland. So I'm not looking into that all that much. And I do think he should bounce back here and should be able to get receptions. And I like that price at 5,400. And I don't mind going to Duke Johnson. Probably lean Gio over Duke, but still I think Duke's a fine play. And then other than that, not really going to go down. I think McKissick is interesting. Other than that, not really interested in anything down here, really. Moving on to the wide receivers, obviously up top, Devontae Adams is in play any single week. Julio Jones, always in play, especially against New Orleans here. I like that stack with Matt Ryan. Keenan Allen is probably where I'm looking to go to. Would like to get him in cash, but I know I'm paying up at running back. But I've been playing him in cash pretty much every week, and it's pretty much been working out every single week. And Keenan Allen, 7,400 versus the Jets, and a 46.5-point game total, where the Chargers are 9.5-point favorites. And he is averaging 19.1 DraftKings points per game, and he's averaging a little bit over 10 targets per game as well. Yeah, like I said, a fantastic cash play week after week. And I do think he has some tournament upside as well here against the Jets. So I love the matchup. Price, I still think I think Keenan Allen's going to be way too cheap probably for the rest of the season. I don't think they're going to price him up. I think 7,400 is a little bit too cheap for the amount of volume he gets. He's a beast. He gets a lot of volume each and every week, and that's something I really like about the dude. So, yeah, Keenan Allen, 7,400 is pretty good there. I like McLaurin a lot. I think McLaurin's a good cash play. I think McLaurin has some tournament upside as well. Another guy that gets a lot of volume. Going down and finding some value here, Deontay Johnson, somebody I really like. I like the Minnesota receivers against Dallas. Going down for some value here, Marvin Jones Jr. is really interesting here. I really like the price here, 5,500 versus Carolina. And 46.5-point game total where the Lions are 2-point favorites, averaging 11.5 DraftKings points per game. And he scored at least 10 points in the last 4 games. And he should get a lot of opportunities here. So Kenny Golladay and Danny Amendola are out. So, yeah, 5,500. He's going to get a ton of opportunity. And he got a decent matchup against this Carolina defense. Their run defense is really bad. Their pass defense I'm not all that scared of. And he should be the main guy. So, yeah, 5,500. I don't hate that whatsoever. I'm probably looking for him in cash as well. All right. Going down to Brandon Cooks. And another guy that's way too cheap here, 5,200 versus New England, 48-point game total where the Texans are 2-point underdogs. So he played in really bad weather last week in Cleveland, scoring only 9 DraftKings points. Not the best matchup here against New England, but Cooks has been getting a lot of targets as of late. And you do get $1,000 savings off of Fuller, and Cook has actually been getting more targets than Fuller, and he has more targets on the year as well. So way too cheap here for the amount of volume that he gets. I don't really understand this price for Cooks. I think there's a decent amount of upside. I don't hate the Watson and Cook stack as well. I do think that stack will be pretty low owned there, but yeah, Cooks is way too cheap here at $5,200. All right, going down into some more value here. Another guy, I really don't understand this price. Jacoby Myers, $4,900 versus Houston. 48-point game total, where the Patriots are 2-point favorites. So he's Cam Newton's favorite target, obviously, and has been fantastic. In his last 4 games, scoring 15, 31, 13, and 10. Still no Edelman, and Harry has not been doing anything at all. So yeah, Myers is the dude. And he seems pretty cheap here at $4,900, and I think there is some solid upside as well. Really good matchup against this Houston defense that is pretty poor. So yeah, Myers at $4,900, I think that price is way off there. All right, going down, and there is a decent amount of value plays down here, all the way down here. Marvin Hall is really interesting at $3,800 if you don't want to go with Jones. I think Marvin Hall is fine. He's going to be that next guy behind Jones. Way too cheap there. I think that Denzel Mims, 3,300, is really interesting as a pump play. But I do want to talk about Jakeem Grant here. I went with him last week. It worked out pretty good. 3,500 versus Denver in a 45-point game total, where the Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites. And he had 14.3 DraftKings points last week at 3,000. They priced him up a little bit here with the $500 increase. But I still like the play. I still like the pump play. He is filling in for that Preston Williams role, and he should see a decent amount of targets for the price. And he did have 5 targets last week. So yeah, Grant, I still think he's way too cheap here. Probably not going to be 3,500 or in this 3,000 range for much longer. And yeah, I like him here against Denver. So getting into the tight ends to top it off. And yeah, the tight ends are extremely ugly this week. Like it's really bad. Definitely punting down at tight end 100%. Like I believe Mark Andrews. Yeah, Mark Andrews is the highest priced tight end. And yeah, no way. So going down, I think Hayden Hurst is an interesting tournament play for tight end. Hawkinson, very, very interesting at 4,200. But I do want to talk about 2 guys. We'll start with Dallas Goddard. This is probably where I'm going to in cash. 3,800 versus Cleveland in a 47-point game total, where the Eagles are 3-point underdogs, and he is averaging 9.1 DraftKings points per game. So Ertz is still out. You got a fantastic matchup against Cleveland, who really does struggle against the tight end. And yeah, way too cheap here. 3,800, way too cheap here. I think he got like 6 targets last week. So yeah, Goddard, this is probably where I'm going to in cash. And the other dude I want to mention, I was going to go here in cash, but I'm probably going with Goddard. But you did get a nice savings. And Logan Thomas, 3,300 versus Cincinnati in a 46.5 point game total, my bad. And Washington is a 1.5-point favorite. And yeah, Thomas is averaging 8.5 DraftKings points per week. He had 6 targets and 66 yards last week. Cheap pump play here for tight end. 52 targets on the year, averaging a little bit less than 6 targets per game. And yeah, good matchup here against the Cincinnati defense. So I think Logan Thomas is fine. So that's about it, guys. Defenses we can talk about a little bit. If you want to go up and play the Steelers defense at 4,600, go ahead. Defense is really tricky. I was thinking maybe the Browns defense, but they're going to be missing Garrett. So honestly, probably going to punt down at defense as well. Like there are really not many good options. Bengals against Washington, I actually think that's not bad. The Bengals defense isn't great, but Washington offense isn't great as well. So probably just going to punt down with Bengals defense. Broncos against Miami is not awful, 2,400. Yeah, so probably going to be the punt for the Bengals for me there against a kind of a poor Washington offense there. So that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all support. Yeah, been on kind of a roll here as of late, so hopefully keep it going into week 11, and good luck, and let's win some money.